proud members of the Dread Central Podcast Network.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, come on, you know I don't watch that shit.
Why not? Too scared?
No, it's just what's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Welcome to Kim and Kat Stay Alive, Maybe.
We're a horror movie comedy podcast. And today, I, Ketryn Porter, am going to tell you a tale about a horror movie.
And spoil the fuck out of it.
Yes,
I'm
that
Kim
too.
Burns.
Hi. How you doing?
Hello.
Gina holes out.
Tits up.
All right. Well, here we are again, ladies and gentlemen.
It feels like we were just here, and yet we're still here.
Yeah, it's like every day
Is here.
is the same day.
What's up, dude?
Nothing. I had kind of a downer week, but I was very appreciative of that book you told me to get, which I haven't even gotten yet, but just about remembering that women are on a 30-day cycle and sometimes you feel like shit for a whole week.
Oh, I was like, what book
so-
did I tell you to get?
Yeah, it's
Moody
just been like,
bitches?
yeah, it's just been like a good reminder to be like, sometimes I'm just in a bad mood. And
Yeah. Highly recommend the book, Moody Bitches. And then there's like a 75-word subtitle to it, but I don't remember it.
it's very long. It's got its own book on the cover of the book.
Yeah. I read it forever ago, so I don't remember all of it. But yeah, it just makes you, it's all about just like not judging yourself. Like it's just being like, oh, this is how your body works. And so stop trying to fit it into the world that doesn't work around your body's cycle.
Yeah. So I've just kind of been
So
dealing
like,
with
take
that.
a nap if you feel like taking a nap, basically.
Yeah.
If you can.
And I think I have a lot of judgment
And
about
don't
like
judge
how,
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
about how productive I am. And then I think I'm like not sleeping super well, but like I don't remember not sleeping, but like all I know is that like my super, super thick night guard to keep from like grinding my teeth, which is like,
Sexy.
super sexy, but also like almost a quarter inch of like thickness.
Uh-huh.
And like I'm cracking it
Oof.
with my mouth. And like I woke up with like bits of plastic in my mouth.
Oof.
So I'm just like, I feel like my jaw is going to fall off and I don't know how to fix it like while I'm asleep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, but that's like making me stress more about it.
Right.
And I
yeah.
don't know what to do. And I'm also just like, what is my brain churning on all night that I'm just like,
Yeah.
holding
Do you do
my-
things before you go to bed, like a nighttime routine or anything?
I try to. And like,
Calming stuff.
I try to. And I try to like actively disengage like each of my jaw muscles. But like, even that is like hard for me to do consciously. So I don't know if anyone has any advice about like,
But I mean,
Jaw
more like
doctors?
mental things, not physical jaw things.
I do all of it. Like I try to like just like I try to like listen to a meditation. I try to like, and it's just I don't know what the deal is.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night at all, or like have thoughts or anything?
Not enough that it feels event worthy.
Like you could like just keep just something to try is like keep a pen and a piece of paper, like a pad of paper, like next to your bed, just so you know that like it's there to write anything down that comes up, even if it's like, oh, I have to remember to do this.
Ooh.
But it's kind of like letting your brain take a break because you're like, oh, I'm gonna write it down. Like I don't need to fucking think about it all night long.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because like maybe that's happening without me really even like
And even
consciously
just
knowing that
scribble
that's
shit
happening.
down, just being like, I can never read things when I write them in the middle of the night, but
but it like allows your brain to be like, okay, that's off our
sleep.
plate. Yeah. No, that's a really good idea. Maybe I'll try that. But yeah, so I'm just, like seeing that I'm like cracking a thing that like shouldn't be crackable with one's jaw is making me more stressed about the thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so it was a weird week for me.
A strong jaw, that Ketryn Porter.
I do.
Old,
I feel like
strong jaw Porter, they call her.
Yep, that is one of my many. I do. I mean, here's the thing. I genuinely feel like I could bite off a human finger.
I think that's a great survival skill.
Right? And like, I don't think it would be hard. Like, I think I could do it pretty easily.
I'm going to use that today.
You're going to use my jaw to bite off someone's finger today?
Yeah.
Hand them over. Snack time. Whose finger am I eating?
I've got somebody for you.
Done and done. How was your life?
Well, it was my birthday this weekend, and it was super fun, even for a quarantine time and being alone. So I'm very grateful for that. Ketryn and Eric were really sweet, where they like brought a table of presents and like sat it on the sidewalk outside of my apartment and like stood outside and while I opened presents, which was very sweet and cute. And my nieces sang happy birthday to me. And then we just played some virtual games at night, and that was really fun. And it was kind of with really like fun. Some of our, like mostly like our college friends. So it's like some of my oldest friends that like I love, and which was nice. And one of the coolest things is that like some of them don't live here and they live in different parts of the country. And so I normally wouldn't spend my birthday with those people. So like sync. Yeah. And so I was really grateful for that. It was actually really fun.
It was really
fun.
It was
a nice day.
It was really fun. I really like whatever that, I don't remember what it was. It was like a version of Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
Or something online. I thought that was really fun.
It was fun. And then I also did like a big like 12 card spread. I don't have tarot cards, but I do like guidance cards. So I have like goddess ones. And then I forgot what the other one's called, like light something. And it was just fucking awesome. Like that took up like most of my morning. Like I just like kind of saged like the house and myself and everything, and like just did some like nice woo-woo spiritual work, which was like cool. And it's like a whole like 12 card spread for like your past year and then the year ahead and everything of like what to work on and what to expect and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Was it like you said 12 cards? So was it like a card per month?
No. Each card just stood for something. Like it was kind of like what you learned in the past year, what was like what was hard or something like that, different things. And then it was like 4 cards, like kind of one for like relationships, one for this, one for that. And then it was kind of like what you need to kind of work on in the next year. And then like what, I forget what the last one was, but it was basically like the main thing was like to work on like receiving in the physical realm.
I love that.
Like being open to receiving money or help from people and like just receiving, which is really good for me to work on.
Yeah.
And then like,
because I feel like you've got, you can, for you, correct me if I'm wrong. It's like receiving is one thing, but like believing you deserved to receive it is another.
A little. It used to be more of that, but I've worked on that a lot. Mm-hmm. Can continue to work on that for the end of my days. 100%, because that's a deep rooted one for me. But no, I've literally gotten like hypnosis, like RTT on that. So I actually feel way more worthy of things.
Good.
It's truly almost more of like, I don't know what spoke to me about it was like receiving in the physical realm. So it's like almost less about like that. I mean, I think the worthiness is probably wrapped up in there, but it's just like literally like allowing money to come in.
Yeah.
And like allowing help, allowing like people to come in, and I don't know, stuff like that.
No,
and
that
like
makes a lot of sense.
Calling it in kind of, And then the last one was like, I want to find it and read it to you. But it was basically like just the overall for the next 12 months or whatever. And it was like, you've been like working on this, like preparing for this for lifetimes. And it's like, you are the light. And like, this is the time to like be seen and be shown and like trust that it's like, you know, like you've been preparing for this for lifetimes. So like you could do it.
Do you want to hear a movie?
I really do. I think I know what it is, but I'm excited. And I think that I want to be on the villains team for this one, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, I am
just because I'm feeling feisty today.
Sure.
About some people, but I guess we'll see. I don't know the tale, so
yeah. Hold that thought. Why don't you? So I haven't been this excited to tell you a movie in a while. Yay. Because the choices are so. When I say clear, I don't mean that there's a clear choice.
Answer.
What I mean is, you know. There's a lot of choices. So Kim and I come up with questions for every single movie we do, but like you start to learn that like there are movies where the characters have more or less agency. So like for instance, as a rule, there tends to be a little less agency when it comes to like possession type things because there's like there's a magic involved, which means like your earthly logic doesn't always apply kind of thing.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? That's how I feel when I'm doing that.
Yeah, sometimes. It
sometimes. Not all the time.
But yeah. Sometimes it can feel like a little more what's the word? Not depressing, where you're just like, I give up. Let me swan dive off the stairs because I can't fight this demon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this one, I'm just really excited because there are so many times where I'm like, what you gonna do, bitch?
Oh, no.
I'm so excited. Okay. So I watched one that I have been wanting to watch probably since we started this podcast because it's up at like number 5 on my list. Misery.
Yay.
I'm very excited. Okay. So Dead or Alive.
You've seen it before though, right?
No.
Oh. Sweet.
No. I boycotted it for a while because someone in college, I can't remember what it was, tried to pay me a compliment, and it was in regards to this movie, but it ended up just making me feel really bad. Because they were like, it started as a compliment. They were like, you're such a great actress. Like, I feel like you're like a, oh my God, now I'm totally forgetting her name.
Kathy Bates.
I'm feeling like you're like a Kathy Bates. And like, stop your sentence there. But instead they said, like, you guys are both really good actors. And like, you're both like, you don't really have a Hollywood or like actress type of look. You're both kind of dumpy, you know, but like
rude.
And I was just like, I am going to go off myself. Cool. Thank you. But first I'm going to punch you in the throat. So I think there was just like a little bit of like, I don't want to watch this kind of thing. And they tried to like backpedal, but I was like, no, like, I mean, you already called me dumpy, so we can't really move past
it's hard
this.
to go back from that.
Yeah. And then they were like, no, I just mean like you're not a Hollywood type. And I was like, honestly,
you're not helping. Just you're not getting better.
So yeah.
This is one where I like kind of how you felt about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it was like, I kind of feel like I like maybe seen it at some point, possibly. Like the pictures always look familiar, but like I have no recollection of it at all whatsoever. And I do know, like, I watched Castle Rock, so I like probably have some.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty
iconic
in the sense that like it's been in the
exactly
common lexicon for so long.
So it could go either way. Of like, I've seen it and I was drunk and don't remember anything and. Yeah, a goldfish brain, or just the pictures are familiar,
or just the fact that like your best friend is kind of a dumpy Kathy Bates sort of type. Like maybe you were thinking,
I never even thought about that. It's like I've been living
right
in misery
in this movie. Yeah, exactly.
My entire life.
Yeah,
wow.
Because I've always kind of thought of you as like a real James Caan type.
I could see that. Yeah, I agree.
Real James Caan type.
I've got not the first time I've gotten that.
You get James Caan a lot.
All the time. It's strangers
Jesus
especially.
Christ. Is that James Caan? Oh, no.
Stop me on the streets for pictures.
Ah, shit. Okay, so dead or alive. Paul.
Alive.
Annie.
Alive.
Buster.
Dead.
Ginny.
Dead.
Okay.
That's it?
Here we go. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So you also have an opportunity for 2 bonus points
Exciting.
in this. All right. So here we are. We're in a little sweet little cabin in a snowy part of the United States. It's very snowy. It kind of like, think Idlewild, where it's like smallest town you could possibly think of, and it's always winter.
Okay.
And we
Haven't been there, but sure.
Oh, that's right.
I
You weren't
didn't go.
there. In my head, you were with
I
me.
was supposed to be there. And
Yeah.
my grandma died that morning. And so I was like,
Right.
can't go anymore.
That's
But I've
so
seen
funny.
pictures.
But also you're like literally like in my memories walking around with me in Idlewild. So this just blew my mind. I literally just remembered you weren't there. Fascinating.
I'm happy that I was there with you.
Yeah. I mean, people were stopping
for
me on the
you.
street being like, do you know James Caan? I saw him walking around. And I was like, no, that's just my friend Kim. We get that all the time. Okay. So, and then they were like, Kathy Bates. And I was like, I know, I'm pretty dumpy. So James Caan typing at a typewriter. And we sort of see a couple shots of like his hands typing. Then we see a single cigarette on like a little dish with a single match next to it. And then a single champagne flute and a bottle of Dom Perignon chilling in a bucket. We then see him like, take the last page out of the typewriter and he writes "the end" on it. And then it's
Celebrate.
yeah. And so then it's a picture of him picking up his single cigarette and he kind of like looks at it. I mean, he looks at it the way I would look at a cigarette right now, where it's just like, I remember you.
Right,
I
yeah.
remember how that felt. And he picks up his single match and he like lights it with his thumb like a fucking real James Caan.
What the fuck year was this made? Had to have been the 80s if there's a Strike It match.
No, this was an actual just match, I think. And he's just like really cool is the impression I got.
No.
What?
That's a
This was
Strike
made
It
in
Anywhere.
1990.
That's a Strike It Anywhere match.
This was made in 1990. I am
That
blown
seems
away.
more appropriate.
okay. It's directed by Rob Reiner. The writer is obviously Stephen King, who wrote the novel Misery, but also William Goldman wrote the screenplay, who also wrote Princess Bride.
Fun.
Yeah. So just
you
sit back and relax. I'm telling you, Princess Bride.
Yeah, you can't light a match with your thumb. Unless it's a Strike It Anywhere match. Like, the whole point of a match is like the science between what is on the little stick and what is on the little board that you swipe it on. So if you're lighting it with your thumb, it's a Strike Anywhere match.
Okay. We have
It's
to
still
just...
cool that he did it, but like he's not mad. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen this movie yet, but I don't think he's magic.
We have to... I can't believe I'm saying this. I really can't believe I'm saying this. But
Don't do it. What? If it's about a postmortem for Strike Anywhere matches, I will murder you through the screen. We've done it. I've done it, and you've done it.
I'm not going to Google what a Strike Anywhere match is. I'm going to postmortem if it was a Strike Anywhere match in Misery or if James Caan is just really cool. And I'm sorry.
It's not about being cool. It's about the science of the thing that's on the end of a match. The little
saw what I saw.
And then they look normal. The Strike Anywhere matches don't look any different. They look like regular matches. Like it's not going to look different.
Kim, you're presenting me with facts and that's your opinion. And I don't have to take them.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm fighting with a person else that's currently in my life right now that isn't you. And I'm going to murder you through the screen.
I hear that in your voice and I'm terrified. Okay.
He's still
moving
cool.
on.
It's still cool.
Yes. Okay.
Not a regular
then
match unless
can we just
he's a witch.
Can we You haven't seen the movie. How do you know I'm not about to tell you that James Caan is a witch?
I don't. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that's not where Stephen King went with this one.
Okay, so next line of my notes. We find out that James Caan character is a witch. So
all right, I take it back. You know what?
There you go.
I walk it
Yep.
back. I can admit when I'm wrong.
So he
also,
lights his...
that makes better sense for me.
Exactly.
No wonder everyone thinks I'm James Caan.
Exactly. So he lights his match, lights his cigarette, pours himself a single glass of champagne. Clearly, this is like very much a very specific ritual.
Yeah.
That he does. So then he puts his manuscript into this old like leather satchel, which I just like loved. I would just kill for a leather satchel like this. He goes out to his car and it's like heavy snow. Like it's not snowing, but like the roads are not looking great. And he like picks up a snowball and like throws it at a tree and he's like, still got it. And but like it was James Caan, so like it looked really cool and hot.
And
know what I'm saying?
The same as if I did it, right?
And it's same as if you did it, right? Yeah.
Really cool and hot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
So now he's driving down a mountain road again,
Not
like
awkward at all.
Idlewild, as you're familiar with.
A very, very, very.
Yeah. But I wrote like it is not drivable. Like these are not drivable conditions. He very clearly should not be on the road. But he's very happy. He's like hitting his steering wheel, dancing to music, and now it starts to snow. And it's snowing really hard, and he can't see shit. And his car like starts to swerve and he's like trying to keep a hold of it and it swerves right off a cliff.
No.
And
I thought I was going to go into a tree, not off a cliff.
Nope.
Oh, shit.
Luckily, there's like, it's not a super tall cliff and there's like a lot of snow. So it ends up kind of like rolling down a snow bank kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it lands upside down.
Terrifying.
In the snow, and
you.
it is continuing to snow.
No. Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So now we have a flashback to him in his agent's office holding his little leather satchel. And his agent is Lauren Bacall, my namesake.
Oh.
Yeah. And she looks fire, as always.
Sure.
And he's talking about where he got his leather satchel. He said he got it when he was a kid and he just like found it in the back of a closet and he just loves it. And it's the only thing he puts new manuscripts in. So we're kind of getting a sense that he's pretty superstitious.
Right. Yeah. I can see that.
He's complaining about, this is the first opportunity that I'll have. Again, flashback. I don't know if I said that. This is the first opportunity that I'll have to like really be proud of something I wrote since I started writing, since I got into the misery business. And Lauren Bacall is like, I mean, misery paid for your daughter's braces and that nice house you live in. So like, don't shit on it too much. And James Caan is like, or Paul is like, I know. I'm just saying that like, I had to get rid of her or else I'd be writing her forever. And he's like, I want to go to Colorado and finish this book so I can maybe have something that I'd actually want on my tombstone.
Interesting. So am I to assume that the misery business is like a series of books he's writing, or that's like writing in general to him?
So no, it is literally a series of books, and it is those trashy romance novels that you like see in the grocery store, because we see like the mock-up of the cover of his last one, and it's like a beautiful woman in like a Victorian gown kind of thing.
Fabio.
Yes.
And okay, so basically he's like, I wrote these. They made me a ton of money, but now I want to kind of finish them and write like something that I care about and feel proud of.
100%. That's exactly it. Now we cut back to present time, and his car is in the snow, snowing super hard. We can see that the car is like now getting covered like deeper in the snow. We see him in there, and he looks almost dead, like very not good.
Oh no.
And he's like pinned in a way, and but somehow he has like his manuscript like sort of clutched to his chest. And we see that someone is outside of the car, but it's so snowy, and obviously we can't see who it is. And the person is crowbarring the door open.
Oh.
And then is able to like pull him out.
Right.
And starts giving him CPR. And the person also thinks to like grab the manuscript that he's clutching and like tucks it into their coat, and then like hoists Paul over their shoulder and is like carrying them through the snow.
Wow.
Yeah, like very strong person. You get there. Cut to James Caan waking up, and he's in a bed, and he's barely able to speak. Like, and it looks like the act of moving the muscles to speak is horribly painful.
Oh, jeez.
And there is like a nice lady sort of over him, but like he's still kind of like trying to come to. And then we see that it's Kathy Bates. And she is like,
Ew.
I'm your number one fan. Yeah, me.
You and me.
Exactly.
Look at us, stars of this movie.
It was, and she's super sweet. And she's like, I'm your number one fan. She's like, there's nothing to worry about. You'll be fine. I'll take good care of you. And he like says, where am I? Barely. And she's like, you're just outside of Silver Creek. You've been here for 2 days. She's like, you're going to be okay. My name is Annie Wilkes. Luckily, I'm also a nurse. And, you know, take these 2 pills. And she gives him like 2 little orange pills.
Mm-hmm.
And then James Caan falls back asleep. Like
Right.
that was enough.
I'm like,
so now
thanks for saving my life, bitch, but take me to the fucking hospital, yo.
Well, we're going to cover that. So, cut to her taking the IV out that was in his hand. She gives him 2 more orange pills, and he's like, what are these? And she's like, it's Novril for your pain. And she like kind of has to like lift his head up for him to even like swallow anything. And he says, he's like, why am I not in a hospital? And she says, the blizzard was way too strong. All of the roads are closed and the phone lines are all down. And she's like, but you have to rest, like you almost died. And so he's like, okay. Cut to a little bit more time passing, 2 more pain pills, and she's like, open wide. And she's really sweet. And she's just like, you're not going to hurt forever. Like, I know that this is awful. And she's like, and I know your shoulder really hurts, but it was very badly dislocated, but I popped it back in. So like, that's going to be better soon. And she's like, but I'm most proud of your legs. And he's like, what? And she's like, all I could do was like use things that I have around my house to splint your legs. But like, there are multiple fractions. And she like lifts the covers off, and we see that she's like put together like a really impressive like double splint. Like, it's like, as a doctor to doctor, I'm like, this is impressive.
Correct. This really is you.
Yeah, it really is. And she's like, I could hear the bones moving. And she's like,
no.
Yeah. She's like, you really need to stay. Yeah, so much blorf. Oh, and his legs look like just blorf. Like, they look just like blorf legs. Like, they are so swollen and like purple and blue that you're like, oh my gosh, are these attached to a corpse that's been in a bog for 6 months? Like, that's what they look like.
Gross.
Yeah. And so she's like, you really need to stay immobile. And she's like, as soon as the roads open, we're going to the hospital. But she's like, but this is how it is in the winter. Like, we're just alone. And she's like, honestly, it really is like an honor to help you recover in my home. So then he like kind of goes back to sleep. So now we cut to Lauren Bacall in her office, and she is calling the Silver Creek police. And she gets on the phone. She's like, hello, this is Lauren Bacall, and I would like to speak to the chief of police or the sheriff of Silver Creek. And this is where we meet Buster, who is my favorite human being, only second to his wife in this movie.
Cute.
And he's like, well, you're talking to the sheriff and the chief of police and the commissioner of the police union and a damn good guide for fishing as well. What can I do you for? And Lauren Bacall is like, I think my client, Paul Sheldon, might be in trouble. And Buster is like, oh, the writer. Like, he comes up here all the time, doesn't he? And she was like, yes, he writes. And he was like, yeah, those misery books. And Buster's like, yeah, he's been up here for the last 6 weeks. And Lauren is like, but the hotel said he checked out last Tuesday, but I haven't heard from him. And the sheriff is like, I mean, does your client always call you when he checks out of a hotel? And she's like, well, no, but like, he just finished a book. Normally I would be like his very next call. And also like his daughter hasn't heard from him either. So like, I'm pretty worried.
Yeah.
And Lauren's really cute because she's like, I don't know. Do I just sound like a crazy person? And Buster's like, a little overprotective maybe, but you know, I'll put you in the system and I'll call you if we hear absolutely anything. And you can tell he's genuine.
Yeah.
But his system, putting it in the system, is writing the name Paul Sheldon on a Post-it note and tacking it to a corkboard.
Oh, no.
That's putting it in the system. As he's talking on the phone and hangs up with Lauren, we see a woman come in with coffee and donuts. And he's like, okay, bye now. And when he hangs up, his wife, Ginny, is like, you got a phone call? Busy morning. And he's like, yeah, work. And he's like, Virginia, when was that blizzard? And she's like, Tuesday. Why? And he's like, no reason. But we can like tell that he's thinking.
Right.
Now we cut to close up of a neck being straight razored.
Okay.
Shaving.
Yeah. Not slit.
Not slit.
That's a good clarification.
And his throat slit. Yeah. Yeah. Paul says, it's a miracle you found me. And this was where I was like, thank you for explaining this. Because I was like, how are we going to explain like the coincidence of all of this?
Right. Yeah.
And she goes, well, it wasn't really a miracle. She's like, I was straight up following you.
Oh.
And
What?
And she's like, I am your biggest fan. Like, I have read your books millions of times. And like, I know that you go to the Silver Creek Lodge. And so sometimes I would just go and sit outside and look in your window, see the light on, and just wonder what was going on in that
do that.
genius brain of yours.
No, thank you.
And
Ketryn, this is actually how Ketryn and I became friends.
Yeah, this
Originally.
is also JK. This is also me and JK Rowling pre-transphobia.
Right.
So
yes.
Yeah. Wait, we became friends because I was spying on you outside your window?
Well, you're Kathy Bates and I'm James Caan. So
Oh, right.
I'm just going to keep going with that and rewrite our tale of friendship.
Well, I got scared for a second because I was like, does Kim have a story of me sitting outside her window watching her? And I was like, rather than going, I don't remember that, I was like, I don't put that past me.
Oh, no.
I got really scared about who I am as a person.
I'm excited to find out more about our friendship.
Yeah. So, but she's very she's very nonchalant about it. She's like,
Yeah.
you're a writer. You're my favorite
doesn't
writer.
Make it less uncomfortable for me.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a big fan. Can you chill the fuck out? And she's like, but then I saw you leaving on Tuesday night and I couldn't figure out why a genius would be leaving when there's a huge storm coming.
She just called you an idiot.
She did just call. No, I called you an idiot.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you're like, to be fair, as there's like a razor on your neck, I didn't know a storm was coming. She's like, she's like, it's fine. Lucky I knew that a storm was coming. And now you're alive. So great. And she's like, I've read all your books, all 8. I know them by heart.
No.
It's like, okay. So she finishes shaving him. She's like, smooth as a baby. And she goes to leave. And Paul says, so when are the phone lines going to be up? I really have to call my daughter and my agent. And she's like, as soon as the roads are open, then they'll be able to fix the phone line. She's like, it shouldn't be long. Like, this is how it goes. She's like, but if you give me their numbers, when I go into town, like, I'll keep trying to call them. And she goes to leave, and then she stops, and she's like, can I ask you a favor? And
What?
he's like, whatever you want. And she's like, I saw that you have a manuscript, and no, never mind. And he's like, what? And she's like, can I read it? And he's like, I have a hard and fast rule that I only, right after I write a novel, I only let my agent, my editor, and anyone who saved me from dying in a snowstorm read it. So,
Aw, cute.
yeah. And she's like so excited. And so she's like, okay, I'll go get your pain meds. And then from out of the room, she's like talking to him. She's like, what's the title and what's it about? And he's like, honestly, I don't know. He's like, why don't you read it and tell me? He's like, it's been so long since I've written anything other than misery that, like, I don't even.
Oh, so this is his non-misery book.
Yes, his last misery book came out already.
Okay.
Like,
gotcha.
it's out. So when he was having that meeting, that flashback meeting, that was like, okay, your last misery book, it's been sent to the presses. And then
Okay.
he's like, great, I'm headed to Colorado to start writing what I actually want to write.
Right.
So Annie is like waiting for the final book to be available for purchase. She hasn't even read the final book yet. So he's like, I don't know, like, why don't you read it and tell me what you think it should be called? And he's like, maybe you can come up with a title. And she comes in, she's like, oh, like, I could do that. Like, she's just very like, I'm stupid and you're smart. Like, that's just kind of how she is. She's really cute. Now we cut to Buster, Sheriff Buster, at the inn. And the innkeeper is like, I mean, there was nothing weird about his stay. Like, he comes here whenever he writes a book, and he's like the best fucking customer ever. It's always the same. I know he's finished his book when he orders his Dom Perignon, has a glass, pays up, and he's out the door. Drives the same car, 1965 Mustang, never makes a noise, never bothers anyone. And he's like, I bet that old Mustang is pulling into New York right now. So now we cut back to Annie, and she is sitting next to Paul's bed, and she's feeding him tomato soup. And she's like, I'm only 40 pages in to your manuscript, but, oh, nothing. And he's like, what? She's like, well, who am I to criticize a brilliant writer? And he's like, I can take it. Like, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's brilliant. And he's like, oof, rough criticism so far. And she's like, but the swearing. There, I said it. And he's like, well, I mean, that's just how these slum kids talk. Like, I was a slum kid. Like, this is how everyone talks. And she goes, they do not. She's like, what do I say when I go to the store? Hey, Wally, give me a bag of that effing pig feed and 10 pounds of that bitchly cow corn. And at the bank, do I tell Mrs. Bollinger, oh, here's one big bastard of a check. Give me some Christing money. And James Caan is just like, And as she's saying this, she's like jostling the soup and like spilling it on the bed.
Okay.
And she looks down and she's like, look there, see what you made me do? And he's just like, whoa, lady.
Yeah.
And then she kind of like snaps out of it. And she's like, oh, Paul, I am so sorry. She's like, I get so worked up. And she's like, can you forgive me? And Paul is just like, sure, it's fine. And she looks at him and she's like, I love you, Paul. Your mind. I love your mind. And he's like, thanks. And,
gosh. Ketryn, just back up off my piece, okay? Please. Thank you.
But I love you and I love your mind and I want to lick it. So he smiles and then she leaves and his face is just like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And here's why James Caan is so great in this role. He's never not a tough guy. He's never not the tough guy from The Godfather. Like he just, his vibe is like, I don't take no shit. He's like, I can handle this. Like, I loved his performance. Like, we always talk about Kathy Bates' performance in Misery, but like, James Caan, good fucking God. He was incredible. So now we cut to Sheriff and Ginny, and they're driving, and we see that they are driving on the same part of the road that we saw Paul careen off of.
Okay.
Ginny is driving, and then she... and they're like both like probably 70, I would say. And she like puts her hand on his leg and starts like rubbing his leg. And he like takes her hand and puts it back on the steering wheel. And he's like, Virginia, when you're in this car, you're my deputy, not my wife. and then Ginny says, well, this deputy would rather be home under the covers with the sheriff, if you ask me.
Cute.
So cute.
I love that.
Eric and I are being Buster and Ginny for Halloween.
I know. I was like, what a cute couple's costume.
It gets even cuter. So after she says this, Buster's like, stop. She stops. And there's like a broken branch that just looks like it was freshly broken. And Ginny is like, I mean, it could be the wind. Like, she's like, I don't see anything. And he's like, you're right. It could be the wind. It could be heavy snow, or it could be a car. And so he looks down the hill and it's just snow space. Like it's just snow. Mm-hmm. He tries to go down a little bit further and like, he can't even get, like, he literally falls into the snow, like up to his chest. Ooh. And he's like trying to walk, and then he's like stuck, and he realizes like he's not going to be able to get down any further unless he like, I don't know, gets a sled. I don't know what you do in that instance. I don't know.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But
gotta go back and get the old police sled.
Yeah, the police sled. I mean, I wasn't sure how he was going to solve this problem, but Ginny's up at the top, and this is when I looked to Eric, and I was like, oh my God. We are Ginny and Buster. Because Ginny's just standing up at the top and she goes, do you need some help? And he turns around and he's like, no, I'm having a great time. Thank you very much. And she just like rolls her eyes. So she ends up helping him back up. And we see just ahead of where he was, the camera now shows us that there's a tire poking out of the snow. But like, there's truly no way that he could have gotten there on his own. When Buster gets up to the top, he's like, I hope he's not in there or I hope he's not out there, because if he is, he's dead. And he's like, let's go to the newspaper and like let them know, basically, so that we can just have people on the lookout. And as they're getting into the car, we see Annie driving in her car in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Cut to Paul waking up to the doorknob of his bedroom opening very, very slowly. And Annie pokes her head in. She's like, I hope I didn't wake you up. And he's like, it's fine. And she's like, look what I got. And she holds up the final Misery book. Oh. And Paul says, oh, so the roads are open. And she goes, oh, yeah, the road into town is open. She's like, I called the hospital. I spoke to the head orthopedic surgeon. And he said, if it isn't infected, you know, there's no reason to try to like risk your health and rush you to the hospital. He told us to wait until the roads are more clear and then he will send an ambulance for you. But, you know, he says that it's safer for you to stay put. And she's like, and I also was able to call your agent and your daughter. Paul is like, oh, so the phones are working. She's like, yeah, the phone's in town. And then she like kind of changes the subject. She's like, oh, Paul, I peeked at the first page and it's just so beautiful. Like, I just can't wait to read it. And he kind of like interrupts her and is like, God, my daughter is going to go nuts. Like, it's her birthday today. And like, you know, what am I going to do? And Annie is like, well, your agent said that she'll tell her. And she's like, but you'll have to wait till tomorrow to talk to her yourself. She's like, I'm sure that the phones will be up by then. And she goes to leave and she's like, oh, Paul, what a poet you are. And then she like leaves and shuts the door. So cut to her bringing him food. And she's like, I'm on page 75. She's like, I can't even think of the words. Like, she's like, would you be insulted if I just said it was great? And he's like, no, great's fine. And she's like, but it's not great. It's perfect. And then she like goes to leave. So now there's nothing even creepy happening yet. It's just somebody who's a big fan of a writer, Kim. I don't know why you're freaking out so much.
I'm not freaking out.
I just really like the book. Okay, just calm down.
Listening with a big smile on my face, and not awkward or uncomfortable smile at all. Just listening away.
So now we cut to a landscape of snow space where the house is located. So we kind of like see like where the house is in reference to other things.
Okay.
It is
nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we see Paul's room and the door opens again and in comes a big brown pig.
A big
Oink,
brown
oink.
pig?
Yep.
Oh, hi, big brown pig. What's his name?
And so she kind of like gets up on the bed, like puts her hooves up on the bed. And Paul is just like,
I could literally see James Caan and a big brown pig that he doesn't want to be near.
yeah. And he's just like, but like he can't even really move away from it. Yeah. So he's just like, and
but I love that pig.
Oh, she's a really sweet pig. And she's got a little collar.
What's her name?
And so in comes Annie and she's like, oh, you've met my sow, Misery.
Oh.
And James Caan just looks at her and goes, she's a fine pig. Congratulations. And she's like, I'm on page 300 now. She's like, it's wonderful. And or first she's like talking about her pig. She's like, it was lonely on the farm after my husband left. It was just me and the cows and the chickens. But now that I have Misery, like she's my special girl. Like I just love her. That's when she's like, I'm on page 300. I have to go back and get back to reading. She's like, it's wonderful. And then she goes, what's that ceiling that Dago painted? And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, Eric, what the fuck did she just say? And he was like, it's a racial slur.
Yeah,
for
that's
Italian.
what I thought that you were saying.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I've never, ever heard that before in my life.
Really?
Never.
Oh.
Like I had no idea what she was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So, James Caan like kind of looks at her and is like, the Sistine Chapel? And she's like, yeah. She's like, it's as fine as the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, that's the question she asked, and the answer is the Sistine Chapel.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's where I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, no. I feel like, isn't that term used in Godfather sometime? I could be making that up completely, but.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, Eric was surprised that I had never heard it before either. Like, to the point where I had to, like, turn the captions on to be like, what did she even say? I didn't even know.
That's bonkers, though.
Which part?
That's what she said.
Yeah.
For that.
And James Caan is like, he's literally just like, thank you for like this compliment that you wrapped up in a nice little racial slur bow.
So much.
Yeah.
In there.
And
so much in there.
And then she's like, those are the only two divine things in this world. And like, even though he wrote it, James Caan is like, is it? Like, he's just like, I don't, yeah. I mean, thank you, but also, is it? Which I just thought was so funny. So then she's like, come on, Misery. And Misery snorts out the door. And Annie like snorts after her. And then Annie like turns to Paul and like snorts at him, like just being playful. And he's just like, like just James Caan face forever.
Yeah, I see it.
And so now we cut to, time has passed, a day or whatever. And we cut to Annie staring out the window in his bedroom wistfully. And she's just looking out the window and she's talking about, she's like, I wasn't prepared. when my husband left me. She's like, it was so lonely, you can't even imagine. And it cuts to James Caan, and he's just like laying in bed with like his arms under the covers and just kind of like, yep, sounds lonely. Mm-hmm. And she just keeps talking, and she's like, I thought I was going to go crazy. And then like the night shifts at the hospital, like they're so lonely too. And she's like, that's actually when I first discovered Misery. And she was like, I would just read them over and over again. She's like, I only have 2 chapters left in this one, and I know when I finish it, I'll just start it all over again. Cut back to Paul, and he's just like, thank you. Cool. And he just like looks awkward, and then he pulls something out from under the covers, and he's like, all done. He was peeing the whole time while she was like talking to him, and he was just like, can I have a minute? To pee. Yeah. And she's like, oh, you're all done. And she just like very nonchalant, like she's a nurse. So she just like nonchalantly goes over and takes it. But then she stands at the foot of the bed and is like gesticulating with the thing of pee. Okay. And James is just like, can you not? Like, I'd rather have the pig in here than you gesticulating at me with my own pee, please. And she finally leaves. You know, she's just like, all right, I'm whatever. So now we cut to nighttime. The moon. Yes. And it is definitely the moon.
This bitch.
I know that you struggle with identifying our heavenly bodies.
We went back and looked at that first photo of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was confusing.
It was very confusing to the point where I'm like, I still don't
sky. With it looks like the sun in the dark sky is what it looks like. But that like what? But
what is that? Yeah, it looks like the sun is as bright as the sun is, but not illuminating anything
else. Exactly.
It was very confusing.
So how am I supposed to know?
So, moon, Paul's asleep in his bed. Nighttime. We see the door open, and then we hear it slam. And it's Annie standing at the foot of his bed, and she just goes, you dirty bird. How could you? She can't be dead. Misery Chastain cannot be dead. And she's like losing her mind. And Paul's like, Annie, it's the 1800s. Women died in childbirth all the time. And she's like, no, you murdered her. And she like picks up like a chair and throws it at him, and it like shatters above his head.
Oh no.
And she goes over to the bed, and she's like very catatonic now. And she just says, I thought you were good, Paul, but you're not. You're just an old dirty birdie. And I don't think I should be around you for a while. And she walks out catatonically, then turns before she closes the door and says, and don't even think about anybody coming. I didn't call them. Nobody knows you're here.
Oh no.
And you better hope nothing happens to me. 'Cause if I die, you die. Goodbye. And then she leaves.
This does feel familiar. It's exactly how Ketryn got me to be friends with her.
Yep. I broke both of your legs and chain you to a bed. Paul's freaking out. And then he hears her car leave.
Okay.
In the driveway. So, question number 1, Kim.
Yeah?
What are you doing and what's Paul doing?
I mean, my legs don't work, right?
Correct. Neither does one of your arms.
One of my arms doesn't work?
One of your arms is in a sling. So, because remember his shoulder was dislocated?
Yeah.
So, like, one of his arms is in a sling. Yeah. And he has use of his left arm only, of all of his limbs.
Is there anything in the room with me?
There is lots of It's a grandma room. So it's a bed and maybe it's like a roll top desk kind of thing. Maybe a shelf with some stuff on it.
Well, I guess. Since I clearly have magic powers and can light matches with my thumb.
Right, you're a witch. Uh-huh.
I'm just going to put out the call for help.
Okay. Great.
Just
To
kidding.
your coven?
Uh-huh. Let's see. But I don't know. I guess, like, I mean, I feel real fucked.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that I will try to grab anything that's near me that could be, like, protection in any way or weapony, like a letter opener, even like a pen or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Just in case. What else can I do? Could try to get the pig maybe to come in, but like,
Here, piggy, piggy, piggy.
what do I do with that pig? Pig, go to town. Tell them I'm in trouble. Or I could, like, I guess I could try to army crawl around. Okay, I heard her car leave, you said?
Yes. So you can, I will tell you, you can assume she is not in the house.
Yeah.
And that you can hear her come back. We can presume those two things.
I think I'm going to try
Kim, this is question 1, and I already see your swan dive face. So you're going to need to get it together.
I know. Remember when you were like, oh, it's harder with fucking paranormal shit? And I was like, no, both my legs are broken and my arm is dislocated. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, I disagree. I can, like, do some spells and cover myself in salt and dive in holy water for those things.
Right.
I think that, fuck it. Let's just, him and I both army crawl around the house looking for a phone and or knives and things together. Hand, one arm and one arm.
Yep.
Really?
So, yeah.
Look at us go. James Caan, self to self.
Yeah, James Caan's killing it.
You really are one.
You really are. So this was where I was like, James Caan's physicality work
Ooh, yeah.
is some of the most impressive physicality work I've ever seen.
Nice.
So what he does is he painfully, like, puts his left arm down on the ground, like,
Okay.
to stilt him up,
Yeah.
and then shifts his hips enough so that one more shift in his legs, the bottom half of him will fall off the bed. But he's like, this is going to hurt so fucking bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he does it, and he screams when he falls to the floor and immediately, like, breaks out into a flop sweat, which I thought was, like, really great on, like, the directorial makeup department, that it's, like,
Yeah.
that idea of, like, so much pain and, like, sweat just pours out of your pores.
Oof.
And so now he starts dragging himself with his army crawling with his one arm. He finally gets to the door. And the reason I gave you a point is because he learns something. She locks it.
Oh, so you don't even get to go out of the house.
Right. So the door is locked. Cut to the sheriff talking to Lauren again. And the sheriff is like, there's no reason to come here. He's like, we're working with the police and the FBI. You know, as soon as we know something, you'll know. And we see that Ginny was on the phone as well. And she gets off and she's like, no activity on his credit cards either. Like, we're at a dead end there. So now we cut over to Paul again, and he is asleep on the floor. What the fuck? He's asleep on his floor, but made it so that he's right next to the bed, as opposed to like over by the door. And she comes in and she is all back to normal. And she's like, oh my God, you poor thing. She's like, this is all my fault. It serves me right. I knew I should have tried to figure out how to make this a proper hospital bed, or if only I had a proper hospital bed, this would have never happened. And she's like, this is going to hurt, but only for a few seconds, because she has to like lift him back into the bed now. And it's just like so painful. But she's like a very stereotypical nurse in that she's like, oh, you crybaby, like in a sort of like coddling sort of way, like a very motherly type of way.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, you just rest. She's like, I have a big surprise for you. But first, there's something you need to do. And he's like, okay, but can I maybe have a snack while I'm waiting for the surprise? I'm really hungry. And she's like, you can have everything you need, but first you must listen. And she's like, I will admit something. Sometimes my thinking gets a little muddy. I mean, that's why I couldn't remember everything that they were asking me when I was on the witness stand in Denver. But this time, I thought very clearly. I asked God, and I was like, oh, here we go. Now we're in trouble. She's like, I asked God, and he said, I delivered him unto you so that you may show him the way. And James Paul Caan is just like, And so she walks out the door of the bedroom, and he looks terrified and annoyed. Like, that's what James Caan was so good at. Is like, he's terrified, but he also is just like,
motherfucker.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So he's terrified and annoyed, and his face just is this crazy bitch. Like, he's just,
I love it.
And she comes back in, dragging an entire grill. A grill.
Okay.
You know those orb-like grills?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
she's dragging that in. She puts it next to the bed, and she takes the lid off, and there's his manuscript.
Oh, no.
With a can of kerosene and matches. And she douses the manuscript in kerosene. And James Caan, in true James Caan fashion, goes, when I said snack, I meant more like cheese and crackers. I was like, I fucking love you. You're the best. You're about to get fucking murdered, and you're still a wise guy. I just love it. And so she looks at him, and she's like, no time for jokes. First, we must rid the world of this. And she puts out her hands that have the box of matches and a single match in it. Question 2, what do you do and what does Paul do?
Little does she know I don't need this box of matches to light any of this on fire.
'Cause I'm a witch!
I do it with my bare hands. My thumb is a fire stick.
Exactly.
What do I do? What do I do? Well, fuck it. I mean, I'm trying to stay alive, so I'll light my manuscript on fire because you know what I mean. It's fine. I'll write a new one. I'll be okay. What does James do? Is his middle name actually Paul, or were you just saying that?
No, his character name is Paul, so I was calling him
James
Paul
Paul
Caan.
Caan. I was like, JP?
James Paul Caan Sheldon is his full God-given name.
Old JP Caan.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Does he do it, or does he... Okay, so he already figured out a bunch of things. Fuck it, let's just hand in hand again.
That's 1.5.
Oh my.
He eventually does light it on fire, but he tries a couple things first, which is why you got a half point. First, he very calmly looks at her and says, no problem. He's like, there's a bunch of other copies that are already circulating in New York. So burning this one doesn't do anything. So if that's what you need me to do, that's fine. And she goes, cool, then do it. And he's like, sure, easy. but like doesn't take the matches.
Doing it, yeah.
And then she finally goes, I know this is your only copy. When you were 24, you wrote your first book and didn't make another copy because you thought no one would read it. And now you only make one copy because you're superstitious. It's why you always come back to the Silver Creek Lodge. You told that story to Merv Griffin 11 years ago.
You creep! Get out of my, go away, you creep!
And she's like, so James Paul Caan is like, Merv Griffin show. Right. And he goes, tell you what, I'll never publish it. It'll just be for me. No one will ever see it. And she goes, Paul, as long as it exists, your mind will never be free. And she then puts the match into his hand and the match box into his hand. And then she just starts casually dousing the bed in kerosene. As she says,
No.
as she very casually, sweetly, and calmly says, can't you see that's what God wants? I'm trying to help you and
You're a
the
creep.
world. Help me help you. And he's just like, again, just a wise guy. He's a wise guy about to get whacked. It's like, they don't want to get whacked, but they're not going to show their vulnerability.
Yeah.
God damn it.
They're gonna stay till the end.
Yeah. So he lights it with magic, and he looks like he's going to cry, but like in a James Caan kind of way. And he, without looking, like throws it into the grill. Oof. And it just like huge fire. Oof. She then is like somehow surprised by the fire because it's like the paper is going everywhere and like lighting the curtains on fire. Oh, shit. And she's just there going, oh, goodness gracious. Oh, heavens to Betsy. Oh, goodness gracious. And he's just like, this fucking bitch. So then she like runs out of the room and douses it, like pours a bucket of water on it, and then just looks at it and goes, well, that's an oogie mess. And then wheels the grill out. But then she stops because they both hear a helicopter above her house.
Help!
So she goes to the window and she watches the helicopter circling her house. So now we're in the helicopter and we see that it's Sheriff Buster and helicopter man. And he is flying over Annie's property, and there's like he can see her neighbor, but her neighbor is very, 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 very far away. And he's like, there's the old blah blah farm, and there's the Wilkes farm. And he looks in the driveway and he's like, oh, damn, no 65 Mustang there. All right, let's circle back around, and they leave. No. So Paul is just defeated, like absolutely defeated. And she then says something. She's like, God, it just seems like the winters are getting shorter and shorter here. Some people say it's because there's a hole in the ozone layer. What do you think, Paul? And he's just like, I don't know. And she's like, well, it's a theory. And I was like, is this bitch a fucking climate denier too? Like, what the fuck? Using racial slurs, climate denier. So before she leaves, she puts his pain pills in his hand and leaves the room. Question 3, what do you do and what does Paul do?
We're both gonna save him. not take them. We're going to start saving them up, hand in hand, shoulder in shoulder.
Double ding, beach.
Yes.
So he takes the pills and he puts them under his mattress. Cut to her up in her room watching Love Connection, eating a giant family-sized bag of Cheetos and a full 2-liter of full sugar Coke.
Oh, no.
Cut to him eating Jell-O in his room. So time has passed. He can still barely fucking move. And there are his 2 little orange pills on a doily. And he looks at them. And then he takes his knife, his fork, and he cleans the food off. And he pokes a hole in the seam of the mattress now. So as opposed to putting it underneath, pokes a hole in the seam and shoves those 2 pills into the hole in the mattress and covers it up. So now we cut to the next day, and he's in a wheelchair now. She's wheeling him. His legs are straight out because he still can't bend his legs. And she's like, isn't this nice? And he's fucking had it. So now he's like sarcastic, James Paul Caan. And he's like, yeah, I've always wanted to see what the other side of the room felt like. And she's like, I got this for you. And she hands him an electric razor. And she's like, now you can shave yourself. And he goes, God, if I'd known this was the surprise, I would have burned all my books.
Oof.
And she's like, oh, don't poke fun. And she's like, this is a big day for you. I'll bring you your real surprise. And she's like, sit tight. I'll set it all up. And she is setting everything up. And she brings in a table. And he's like, set what up? And she's like, well, now that you've gotten rid of that nasty manuscript, you can get back to writing Misery. And she's like, it'll be called Misery's Return. And she's like, it'll be a book in my honor for saving your life and nursing you back to health. And James Paul Caan is like, you expect me to just whip up a book? And she's like, I expect nothing but your masterpiece. And so she sets him up with a typewriter, leaves the room. So like she put the typewriter down and then she leaves the room. And as she leaves, James Paul Caan sees that there's a bobby pin on the ground. So now she comes back in and she's got reams of paper and she's talking about this is the most expensive paper and here's this typewriter and I got a good deal on the typewriter because it's missing an N. And she says, I told her N was one of the letters in my favorite writer's name. And I was like, isn't N in everybody's name? Doesn't every name have N in it? I guess Kim doesn't. I just feel like N is a really common letter. It's not like Z is missing. Kim's just staring at me. She's giving me no response. She's just staring at me like James Paul Caan staring at Kathy Bates.
Mm-hmm.
She won't respond.
It's feeling really real right
now. So,
yeah, N is a common letter.
It's a common letter. I just thought it was a dumb thing to say. So then he responds.
It is not in everyone's name. No.
He then responds, it's 2 of the letters in my favorite nurse's name, Annie. And she's like,
oh, we're trying this now. I see.
And she's like, Paul, you fooler. She says, did I do good? And he says, you did great. Only problem is, what? Question 4, what do you say and what does he say?
The only problem is I need something to help me write. What do I need? You did good, except I need something to write.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to come up with what that is?
I'll tell you right now, I don't expect you to get the exact thing that he gets, but I would love to know what you, Kim Burns, would get.
I need, what can I get her to do? I'm going to say, except I need this super sharp knife to write with.
Double dish.
I usually keep a loaded gun by me when I write. Could I have that, please?
I need some poison to put into your not poison.
I'm gonna say I always start by like having a drink, and so will you have a drink with me? And then I'm gonna try to put the pills in her drink. And she's not looking.
I'll give you a double ding for that. Like, just
Thanks.
getting her out of the room before she sees the bobby pin. So he says, you did great. The only problem is I can't use this paper. It smudges. And she says, how can it smudge? It was the most expensive. And he goes, come on, I'll show you. So he puts a piece of paper in, types the word smudge, and then pulls it out, and he smudges it, and it smudges. Now, to be fair, I think if you do that right after you type,
Right,
any paper
any
is going to
paper.
smudge. But
Yeah.
she looks at it and she goes, well, what do you know? It does smudge. And he's like, I thought you'd find it interesting. He's like, I want you to be involved in the whole process, Annie. And so she's like, okay, I'll go get the paper. And then she turns and says, anything else you need? Any other crucial requirements that need satisfying? And he's like, nope, just the paper. And she says, are you sure? And he's like, Annie, is something wrong? And she says, I cook for you, I clean for you, I dress you, I feed you, and what's the thanks I get? Oh, this is the wrong paper, Annie. Well, I'll get your paper, but you better start appreciating me, Mr. Man.
Oh, no.
And then she slams a ream of paper on his lap, and he's like, ooh, and like screams. As he's like trying to get his breath back, he sees her pull out of the driveway. He then reaches down to the floor, barely grabs the bobby pin. But first, he has to use his bad shoulder, his dislocated shoulder, to like wheel himself. And we do see that like his shoulder is actually more usable than what he is showing it to be to her.
Okay. Yeah.
So he wheels over to the door, and everything is hard. Like, what I didn't realize until I saw this was like, if your legs are straight out in a wheelchair, like you're that much more immobile, in the sense that like if you need to reach something, you have to like it has to be behind you, basically.
Yeah. Crazy.
So he goes over to the door and he's like, come on, you wrote it. Now let's see if it works. So he takes the bobby pin and he bends one half of it down. So it doesn't matter. He bends one half of it down and he sort of like tries to put it in the lock and he drops it. And this is where I laughed. Like, he doesn't say, oh shit, like you or I would say, oh shit, where we're almost in tears, where it's like, shit. He just drops it and he's like, oh shit. And like just picks it back. Like, he's just so chill. Picks it back up, working it into the lock. So much physical body work, so impressive. And after a minute, it clicks. And like, he seems surprised. Like, he's like, oh shit, great. Okay. It worked.
I did
Great.
it.
Yeah. So he wheels himself out of the room. But everything is hard. His legs are sticking straight out. And he goes to the front door, obviously, first place he goes. The knob turns, but it's locked by the deadbolt, which means he can't pick the lock. So he goes into another door. All of the rooms have doors, as opposed to like, you know, like every room is closed with a door.
Okay.
So he goes into the living room and he sees a phone. So he wheels himself over to the phone. He picks it up. He turns the phone over. There's nothing in it. It's just decoration.
What the fuck? You creep.
And he just puts the phone down. He goes, you crazy bitch. So now we cut to the general store and we see that Annie has the paper and is getting back into her car. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, James Caan, you are not fast enough. She is on her way back. So Paul is wheeling around everywhere very slowly, not doing great. And he wheels past these little they look like blown glass, but they're little animals that you might see at the Hallmark store.
I used to have a ton of those.
Yes. Oh yeah, you did have a ton of those. And it looks like a little army of little animals that like a penguin is leading. Like is the head of the march. And he's like going past.
Too close to home for me. I don't like what you're implying.
I'm not implying anything, creep. So he wheels past it and he knocks the fucking table. As the penguin is falling to the ground, he grabs it. And he's like, oh man. And he puts it back. So now it looks like the penguin is like talking to his subjects as opposed to leading his subjects. And he's kind of like looking around the room and he sees like a couple things. He sees like a scrapbook that says memories on it. He sees a shrine to him and his books. So it's like all of his books lined up and then like an autographed picture of him. No. And he's just like, oh, fuck. And then he wheels into the hallway again and we see another door. He then uses his feet to like push open the door and he's like, ugh. And we see that it's like a utility closet. And he looks up and he sees a bunch of pain pill packets. Question 5, what do you do and what does he do?
I guess we both take a bunch hand in hand? Question mark.
Double ding.
Oh my god.
So double ding. He sees, and they're in little, they're not in like a bottle. They're in like little foil pop them out kind of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he grabs like a sheet of them and shoves them into like the waist of his pants.
Okay.
Right? And he tries to go into the kitchen, but he can't get the chair over a little lip. You know, there's like a lip in the floor. He can't get it over. And his arm's not strong enough to do that. But on the other side of the kitchen, there's a knife block and there's also another door, like a back door.
Okay.
So question number 6, what do you do and what does Paul do?
Oh, this is tough. So here are my thoughts. Part of me is like, maybe it's time that I like just go back to bed or go back to the room and kind of like be safe. Like I have this, I know what I have my bobby pin. I have the
lay of the land.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for.
I knew.
And you know, stay safe until like my next opportunity, or try and get over this lip. Or
how you getting over this lip?
If I get over the lip, like I'll have a knife, so that's good. Mm-hmm. Fuck, how do I get over the lip? I need like a ramp, maybe.
Build a ramp. Miss Annie, would you mind building me a ramp where, like, I don't know, say a wheelchair could get over this lip in your kitchen for no particular reason? Just curious.
I use my magic powers and I'm just like, Accio,
Accio, but that's bringing something to you, so that only works if you know where a ramp... Oh, knife. Okay. I thought you were trying to bring a ramp to yourself.
I skipped over that whole thing. I was like, I don't need a ramp if I can just bring the knife to me.
See, this is why you and I are a great crime-fighting duo, because you have the use of logic. To me, I was like, why would you Accio a ramp to yourself? Fucking idiot.
Like, my goal is the knives. Fuck my life. Fuck. Fuck it. I guess. Okay. I need more time to think. So I guess I'm hand in hand. We're going back in the room and locking it back up to stay safe until our next opportunity and to think.
1 point for you.
Okay.
I was screaming at the TV when I saw this because obviously we know that she has the paper and is on her way back. But even as Paul, I'm like, you know that town's not that far away.
Right. Like, you know how long she's been gone.
Right. He can't get over the lip. So he gets himself painfully out of the chair.
Wow.
And army crawls to the door.
Okay.
Tries it. It's locked. Don't know why right now he doesn't try to pick it, but regardless, he
Also,
then
like, aren't doors locked from the inside?
I mean, she appears to be a locker.
I guess if
Of
it's like
doors.
a pat, not a
Deadbolt is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Deadbolt? Yeah. So he painfully gets himself out. And now we cut to Annie driving. So we see like she's almost here. Cut to him scooting across the kitchen floor. Oh, this is where he's scooting across the kitchen floor to the back door, locked. He's laying on the floor. He tries to sit up like against the fridge and he's like exhausted. Like obviously getting to like the side of the room, he's exhausted.
Right, yeah.
And he like sees that he can like not really reach the knives in the block.
Of course
now
not.
that he's not in the chair.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then he hears her car. So if he can
JP.
right. So if he can hear her car, that means she is in the driveway.
Right.
So he's like, fuck. And he starts crawling really fast. But this is the type of thing where it's like, it doesn't matter how much it hurts. He has to use his whole body. Again, his physical work, out of this world. He looked like he was in so much pain. Painfully gets back into the chair quickly. Quotation marks. He's wheeling back through the house, pushes off walls. He's like sweating profusely. We now see her coming up the porch steps and like getting her keys out, and she drops a ream of paper. And we're like, ugh! So she bends down to pick up the paper. He then is like wheeling through the house and he has to like close a door like from behind, like kind of make it swing closed. And he goes into the room. Kim, question 7, what can't you and he forget to do?
Lock the door. Lock the door.
You're doing so good.
It's
We haven't
because
even-
I am James Caan.
Right. And we haven't even gotten to the bonus questions yet. So he relocks the door. And that was something where like I was in such a panic that when he went back to lock the door, I had forgotten. So I was like, nice. That was so smart. So he now hears her inside and he hears her talking to him saying, got the paper, whatever the fuck. And he's like putting his arm back into the sling. And as he's doing it, he sees that the pills are still sticking out of his pants, but the door is opening. So she's walking in and he quickly just like covers it with his hands. And he's dripping with sweat.
Yeah.
And Annie comes in and she's like, oh my God, you're dripping with perspiration. And your color is very hectic. And I was like,
Hectic.
Yeah. And she says, what have you been doing? Question 8, Kim, what have you been doing? And what does James Paul Caan Sheldon say he's been doing?
What have we been doing that makes us sweaty sitting in this room? Well, I was just thinking about how excited I am to be writing this new book, and I'm getting so nervous that like you're going to read it and be part of it with me. Like, I just don't know if I'm good enough, and like it's all I can think about, and I just started getting like extreme anxiety about it.
Okay.
And he has been no, she wouldn't like that. He has been
masturbating.
That's what I was thinking, but I was like, she wouldn't like that.
No.
That wouldn't be like a positive answer for her.
Yeah. I thought that's what you were going to say. What have you been doing? Masturbating.
It's
moving on.
It is the first thing that crossed my mind, I'll be honest. I'm glad we're on the same page of that. But I don't think
But I'm not left-handed and my right arm's in a sling, so it took a little bit more effort.
Really worked up a sweat. But yeah, I don't think it's the best answer for her.
Right.
What was he doing? I have a fever. He has a fever. I don't know. That's all I have.
That's a half a point. I don't think she'd be convinced by your anxiety question, only because she knows everything about your personality. What he says is, you know damn well what I've been doing. I've been sitting here suffering. You forgot my pills.
Ooh, nice.
And so she comes over and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Here, let's get you into bed. So she goes to lift him. He's like, no, you have to get my pills first. And he starts begging her. He's like, please, Annie, only you can take my pain away. Please. So she looks at him deadpan and just says, it just breaks my heart to see you like this. Turns around and walks out. He tucks the pills into his pants. Nice. She then brings him back his pills. And she says, I've done a lot of thinking. And the main reason that I think I've never been popular is because of my temper. And she's like, you must be so mad at me. Now tell me the truth now. And he looks at her and he's like, who doesn't need to blow off a little steam every once in a while? And so she puts him back into bed, tucks him in, and then she hands him a notepad and a pencil. And she says, while you're resting, in case you have any inspiration. And she says, think of me as your inspiration. Mm-hmm. And she says, I have faith in you, my darling. And then walks to the door, turns around and says, catch this. Mwah! And blows him a kiss. And James Paul Caan Sheldon goes, caught it.
Oh, no.
And she leaves. And he takes the pills out of his mouth and sticks them in the mattress. Cut to helicopter again. The snow is now melting. Ooh. So now
the car.
We see a car wreck. Cut to a crane pulling the car out of the snow. And the news is reporting that Paul Sheldon, the famous author, is presumed dead. Sheriff is over at the car with Ginny, and he doesn't think Paul got out of the car alone. What does he see about the car that tells him somebody helped him out?
It's been crowbarred open from the outside. Yeah. I'm a detective too.
You are. So he says, God, he and Ginny are so cute. So he's looking at it and Ginny says, you don't think he's dead, do you? And he says, he might be dead, but he didn't get out of this car on his own. Somebody helped him.
Yeah.
So now he knows he's looking for somebody who saw him in the car. Cut back to Paul. Right before we left you in your bed, you were given something. What are you going to do with one or two of those items that you were given?
I have a paper and a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
This is a what do I want to see?
Mm-hmm. Both of you, yes.
Well, I don't fucking know. Write a book.
Done.
Right,
Misery's
misery
alive.
returns.
Yeah.
What else am I here for? What the fuck do I do with a fucking pencil and a fucking pad of paper?
Stab my own eyes out.
I want to say, like, crush up the pills, but, like,
Warmer.
I guess if I have the little pill packet thing, I can put it in there. Because I was like, what do I do with just like powder then? Like, do I have cups or things? I don't know. What do I do with a pencil, a pad of paper, and a bunch of pain pills?
That is the question. To be or not to be.
Okay. Ooh, I'm going to make a little cup holder with my paper, like a little
Yep.
little
A holdy thingy.
a little holdy.
Okay.
And I'm going to
What does
mash
he
up
do?
all my pills and put them in my holdy. So now I have ready-made, prepared poison.
Okay.
Put that in my mattress.
Okay.
Fucking does the same because I can't think of a god thing. That was hard enough. I can't think of anything else. I don't know. What? Just tell me. Really?
Double ding.
Yay!
He takes a piece of paper and he makes an envelope out of it.
A holdy, if you will.
Yep, a holdy. The pills are capsules, so he doesn't have to crush them. He can just open them.
Oh, I didn't realize they were capsules.
Because it doesn't really matter, but whatever. And he like takes a taste of it, which I was like, why did he just? I asked Eric, I was like, why did he just take a taste of it? And he was like, well, I mean, he is in pain.
No, I was like,
fair.
it probably hurts.
Yeah, fair. And he empties the rest into the pouch. Kim, bonus question: what do you do with now a bunch of little plastic orange halvesies? You know, like the powder comes in like the little pill capsules.
So I just have a bunch of capsules left over.
Yeah. What are you going to do with them?
Okay. Do I need the capsules?
And this is
for
just a
anything?
bonus, so you don't have to come up with him. This is just a bonus question. What does he do?
I mean, like, just trying to make sure if I don't need them for anything. We, us, I, together
I.
as one.
The plural I.
The plural I. I don't think that I do. Will capsules help me? I don't think so. So we just eat them, I think.
Bonus. I just
Yes.
thought that was like
It is a good
I just thought
idea.
that was so smart
Yeah.
because it's like obviously they're edible because you
Right.
take them as pills.
Right. Yeah. It is. It is great.
Bonus point for you.
All right.
So here's the clue that I'll give you because this will make you happy. With that bonus point, you have 3/4 of your dead or alives correct now. So,
Because you did so damn bad in the first place.
so now we cut to later, and he is at the typewriter, and he's staring at a blank page, and he just starts typing, and we just see he's just crazy-eyed typing. Fuck, 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 fuck,
Oh,
fuck, fuck, fuck.
no.
He takes it out, Jack Torrance style, balls it up, tosses it away, starts typing again. We see time pass, still typing. Time passes, Annie comes in, and she comes marching in with his part of his book, and she says, I'm sorry, Paul, this is all wrong. She's like, you'll have to start over. And he's like, what? She's like, except for naming the grave digger after me, you can keep that, but this is all wrong. And he's like, what are you talking about? She's like, it's not fair. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she says, On Saturday afternoons, when I was a child, I used to go to the movies every Saturday afternoon, and I would see the chapter plays. And James says, "You mean the cliffhangers?" And she goes, "I know that, Mr. Man. They're also called serials. I'm not stupid."
Okay.
And he's like, "Okay." So she tells the story of her favorite chapter play. So what this was like before, I guess it was like watching a weekly episode of TV, but you had to go to the movie theater to watch it.
Okay. Interesting.
And they were called cliffhangers or serials or chapter plays. She says, my favorite one was Rocket Man. And she says, Rocket Man, the bad guys sealed him into his car, knocked him out, took out the brakes, and sent him careening towards a cliff. Mm-hmm. Now, at the end of that chapter play that Saturday, we saw Rocket Man's car go flying off the cliff. And I was so scared and so excited, and I just couldn't imagine what they were going to do next week. So I go there next week, and the play the thing starts up where it left off the week before, and we see him about to careen off the cliff, and somehow he gets out of the car and is saved before the car goes off the cliff. And everyone starts cheering, but not me. I stood up in the middle of the theater and I said, "This isn't what happened last week. They cheated us. Have you all got amnesia? He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car." Okay. And James Paul Caan Sheldon is just looking at her and he just goes, "Yep, they always cheated like that in the chapter plays." And he's just like trying to appease her. And so then she comes over to him. She says, "Misery was buried in the ground at the end, Paul, so you'll have to start there."
I see. Okay.
So he clearly tried to just
be like, she's alive. Start her as a person living.
Right. So cut to more snow.
More what?
Snowing
Snow?
again.
Oh, no.
Snowing again. Annie is reading a chapter sitting across from him in the room, and he's just sitting there watching her read. She finishes, and he says, "Is it fair? Should I keep going?" And she says, "You better." She's all excited and blah, blah, blah. And she's literally like jumping up and down. And he's humoring her, and he's just like, "Glad you like it." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Can I read every chapter as you finish it?" And he's like, "Sure can." And she's like, "Will she still love so-and-so with that perfect love?" And he's like, "You'll have to wait." And then she like spins around like a fucking Disney princess and is like, "Misery is alive. She's alive." And I'm like, this bitch is fucking crazy.
Oh, no.
And then she's like, "I'm going to put on Liberace. You like Liberace, right?" And he looks at her and goes, "Whenever he played Music City Radio fucking Hall, who do you think was in the front row?" She's like, "Oh, Paul." So she goes to leave, and then he says, "Oh, Annie, will you have dinner with me tonight?" Ooh. And Annie's face is just like boner to the face.
She pokes her own eye out.
Pokes her eyes out. And he's like, to celebrate Misery's return. He's like, "I couldn't have done it without you."
Ooh.
And she is like catatonic with joy that she's just like, "Oh, Paul, that would be an honor." And she just kind of like turns and leaves like she's in a daze. And it cuts back to James Caan's face. God, it was just, his choices are so subtle yet so clear. It just, you have to watch this regardless, please.
Yeah. I really want to.
So now we cut to
they
Ginny.
both sound amazing.
Oh my God, incredible. It's not that she's not incredible. It's that I feel like everyone talks about how incredible Kathy Bates is in Misery, because this was one of the first things she did. So I feel like James Caan's performance isn't as talked about, but I was like, he's fucking killing it.
Yeah. Was she nominated for something for this?
I think she was. Well, we'll postmortem it. How could we possibly know? So now we cut to Ginny on the phone in the sheriff's office. And she's like, no, I haven't seen him. He never tells me anything. He's probably out having an affair somewhere. And she's like, oh, no, here he comes. So he comes in. She's like, it's Jim. He wants to know who you're having an affair with. And the sheriff comes over and like kind of chuckles to himself. And he's like, hi, Jim. And he's like, nope, we've been over this. If you put benches outside your store, you're inviting people to sit on them. I'm not going to come arrest people sitting on your benches. And so as he's talking to Jim, Ginny is taking a bunch of books out of the shopping bag that Buster just brought in. And she's like, it's all the misery books. And he's like, well, she goes, well, whoever she is, she likes to read. And Buster hangs up with Jim and goes, Virginia, I'm flattered that you think I have that much energy. And he's like, I'm like, this is Eric and me. And he's like, I figured if I can't find Paul Sheldon, I can at least find out what he wrote about. And Ginny goes, well, what do you expect to find? A story about a guy who drove his car off a cliff in a snowstorm? And Buster looks at her and goes, you see, that's just the kind of sarcasm that's given our marriage real spice.
Cute.
And then he walks away. So now we're back at the house. Liberace playing. Dinner. Her hair's all done up. She's wearing her finest frock with a little lace doily for a collar. And he's being like a real flirt. And like, I feel you, girl. Like if James Caan turns on the flirt machine, goodbye. He is my type. And she's like really nervous. Like looks like a little schoolgirl. And he talks about her meatloaf and he's like, can't get something this delicious in New York. And she's just like, like she's just beside herself. So then he says, let's have a toast. And so he pours her wine and she gets like really coy because he like gives her a really tall pour and she's like, oh, no. Like she thinks they're on a date. Yeah. She thinks that they are in love.
Yeah.
And he goes to toast. She goes to toast and says to misery. And he goes, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. She's like, what do you mean? He's like, do you have any candles?
Yes. Yes.
And she's like, I think so. Let me go look. And like, she kind of trips over her boner a couple times.
Of course.
And as she gets up and leaves the room, he keeps talking like to kind of distract her, which is really smart.
Yeah.
So that any noise he makes, like, you know, he's really smart. And he goes, did you study decorating or do you just have a flair? And like her decorating is trash. Like her decorating is like grandma psychopath. Like that's her decorating aesthetic. It's not my jam. And he pours the powder into her glass. She comes back in with the candles and she says, if anyone told me I'd be having a candlelit dinner with Paul Sheldon in my own home, I'd have to check both legs to see which one was being pulled.
Oh, no.
She sits down. They go to have a toast. And as she goes to toast, she knocks the candle over, goes to grab the candle, and spills her wine everywhere. So I'm going to be James Caan for a second, and I would like you to describe my face.
Dead face, but very opened eyes. Just dead face with...
He couldn't... This was the one time where he had no chill.
Just very wide-eyed dead face is how I describe it.
Wide-eyed dead face. He had wide-eyed dead face, and he just like couldn't, like, I was like, dude, you're gonna fucking blow it. If you don't fucking say something, she's gonna know something was in the wine. And so he's just like, just turning in his mind. And she just goes, oh, can we just pretend this never happened? And he kind of like snaps out of it, where I was like, come on, man, get it together. And he just toasts her. And it's just like, sure. And they toast. So Now we cut to a montage of several days passing.
I worked so hard for that.
So hard. So many days. He works so... I mean, I was devastated. I was exhausted when I saw that. I was exhausted. I just couldn't believe it. I just was like... I mean, this is the argument for Stockholm Syndrome. Like, I feel like enough of those things happen and you're just like, okay.
I live
You're like,
now.
not only do I give up, but I'm also in love with you. Let's just go. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So, cut to a montage, several days passing, and him just typing away forever. Just typity type, sun, moon, type. And her reading it as it goes, interspliced with Buster reading the books in bed with Ginny, typing forever. And then Annie saying, best misery you've ever written. We see some of the transcript, no ends in any of the transcript. And then we see, like, at twilight one day, him lifting the typewriter over his head and just, like trying so hard to lift it over his head. Then we have a thunderstorm and really bad rain. Cut to him doing lifts now with the typewriter. Now he can, like, lift it.
Working them arms.
And he hears her coming and he, like, puts it down really quickly when he hears her coming. And she comes in and she's haggard. Like, she hasn't brushed her hair in days. She has no makeup. She's just, like, it looks like she's, like, taken, like, Klonopin or something. She's just dead-faced.
Okay.
And she just walks over and puts his pills on the doily and walks, here's your pills, and then goes to leave. And Paul says, Annie, what's wrong?
What's up, girl?
And she says, she never really looks at him. She's like not making eye contact. And she just is like, the rain gives me the blues. She's like, when you came, I only loved the writer, Paul. Now I love the rest of him. I know you don't love me. Don't say you do. She says, I know I'm not a movie star type. And I was like, yeah, I know. We all know that you, I, me, we are not a movie star type. We get it.
The plural I.
The plural I is not movie star type. So, let me compose myself. She says, you'll never know the fear of losing someone like you when you're someone like me.
Oh.
And he says, why would you lose me, Annie? And she says, well, your book's almost finished. Your legs are getting better. Soon you'll be wanting to leave. And he says, why would I leave? I like it here. And she says, that's very kind of you, but I bet it's not altogether true. And then she pulls a pistol out of her robe pocket and holds it and says, I have this gun. Sometimes I think about using it. I better go now. I might put bullets in it.
Oh, no.
And she leaves.
Oh, no.
And shuts the door. And James, Paul, Caan, Sheldon, the first. It just has a what the fuckle's face on. Just this crazy bitch. God damn it. Then he hears the front door open and close. We see her walking out into the rain in her robe, get in the car, and drive off. Question 11, Kim. What you gonna do and what's he gonna do, bitch? What's you gonna do, bitch? What you gonna do?
Am I in my wheelchair?
Yes, ma'am.
But in my room?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You're so tired. You're like, I don't know, ask her to marry me when she gets back.
Okay. I'm going to go out of the room. I'm strong now. I've been working out. I've been
Your
lifting
arms work.
typewriters. I'm going to get over that lip. And I'm going to get a knife. I'm going to get the best knife of all the knives.
All the knives.
I'm going to keep
Is that you or
knife.
him?
Hand in hand. May as well. Oh, great. Done.
So proud of you.
I was going to take a pokey around for the gun as well, but start with the knife for sure.
So proud of you. So yes, cut to him in the kitchen, getting the knife out of the block and scooting back to his room. Cut to Buster, reading in bed with Ginny. And he says out loud, "There is a justice higher than that of man. I will be judged by him." And Ginny looks over and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "They're about to haul Misery off to court." And Ginny goes, "That's nice, dear." And Buster then grabs a little piece of paper and writes what he just said down on a piece of paper.
What is it again?
There is a justice higher than that of man. I will be judged by him.
Justice. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Cut to Paul, and I guess he's wheeling back to his room now. So he can wheel much faster now. He hadn't quite gone back to his room. He wheels through the living room, and he stops when he sees that open scrapbook that said memories on it. Mm-hmm. So he starts looking through. And it's an old-timey scrapbook where you really had to like tape things into it. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go through each page, okay? Baby pictures of Annie. Article, local banker dies, plunges to death. It appears to be her dad. Article, top nursing student falls to death. Article, Annie Wilkes garners nursing school honors, with an elect Nixon sign as well. And I went into Eric and I was like, Nixon was a racist, wasn't he? And he was like, sure was. And I was like, okay, so. Then we see article, Annie Wilkes to head intensive care unit. And then an obituary next to it. Article, veteran pediatric nurse dies while in a coma at local hospital. Article, Wilkes named county's head maternity nurse. Article, baby Lucy dies after 5-week struggle in the hospital. Article, second newborn death at Eldridge County Memorial. Article, nurse questioned in hospital infant deaths. Pic of Misery on top of an article. Oh, Misery the pig, like just taped in next to articles about death. Article, infant deaths reclaim hospital's nursery or something like that. Article, maternity nurse behind bars. And it's a big picture of Annie Wilkes. And underneath the like subtitle, it says, Dragon Lady arrested in recent baby deaths.
Whoa.
Closes the scrapbook. Cut to him rolling back to the room. Cut to him in bed, practicing. And now it looks like the sun has gone down, so it's nighttime.
Are you sure?
Him. No, but let's go with it. There's no way to know. We don't know what's up, what's down.
Suns and moons are hard.
They are. And we see him practicing pulling the knife out. So basically he has it in his sling arm.
Okay.
And he's practicing pulling it out. Cut to him. What?
I'm just thinking of me doing that.
Yeah, I think he was trying to. Yeah, I think he was avoiding trying to look like you doing it.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah. So now we cut to him just still laying in bed, awake. And we hear the car pull in. We hear her footsteps walk to the door. And we see through the shadow underneath the door that she's just standing outside his door. Mm-hmm. She doesn't come in. And James Paul Caan Sheldon is like, fuck! So he just says, okay, see you in the morning, and hides the knife under the mattress. Cut to him waking up. It's still a super rainy night, and she's just standing over his bed. And she just quickly grabs his arm, shoots him up with something, and walks away. And he just is like, no. And he's out. Marry me. Next morning, waking up super stoned. And he's like even smiling almost like he was maybe having a nice dream. And
just not here.
Yeah, just not here.
Dreaming of basically anything else.
And literally anywhere else. Yeah. And she's like, Paul? And he like almost smiles because he like, you can tell he doesn't know where he is now. And she says, I know you've been out of your room is what she means. I know you've been out. And he looks down and he's strapped to the bed. So like his torso is strapped to the bed and like like his thighs are strapped to the bed.
Okay.
And he's like, no, I haven't. And she, oh, I didn't know my drunk guy was going to come in. I had no idea.
Favorite guy.
I didn't know he was here. And she says, my ceramic penguin always faces due south. And he's like, oh, shit. And then we can see that his hand, because his hand is free. Like, basically, he's, like, strapped here, but, like, his arms are still
out. Okay.
So we see that he's trying to grab the knife under the mattress. And she goes, are you looking for this? And holds it up.
No.
And then he just is like, and I'm done. She says, I knew you'd been out, but I couldn't figure out how. But last night I found your key. And she holds up the bobby pin. She says, I know I left my scrapbook out. I can't imagine what you might be thinking of me. But you see, Paul, it's all okay. Because last night it came so clear. I realized you just need more time. Eventually, you'll come to accept the idea of being here. Paul, do you know about the early days at the Kimberly Diamond Mines? The mines named after you, I guess.
Me? My
Your mines.
I want them.
Based on this story, it looks like you're facing some lawsuits because she goes on to say, do you know what they did to the native workers who stole diamonds? And Paul like kind of starts to squirm a little bit. And she's like, oh, don't worry. They didn't kill them. But they would, she was like, they didn't kill them. That would be like junking your Mercedes just because it had a broken spring. No, if they caught them, they had to make sure they could go on working, but they also had to make sure they could never run. She said the operation was called hobbling. So then she picks up a 2x4.
Right.
And she puts it between his ankles. Okay. So
Like long
it's
ways?
laying,
Or?
yes, long ways. And his ankle bones are up against either end of the piece of wood.
Okay.
Okay. And James Paul Caan is picking up on what she's putting down. And he says, Annie, whatever you're thinking about doing, please don't do it. And then she just holds up a sledgehammer. And he's begging her. And she says, it's for the best. Trust me. And she winds up and she smashes his ankle. And if you're wondering what that looks like, you see it.
Oh, God.
You just see the ankle go like it was made of Play-Doh. And he screams like he's experiencing that type of pain where you're like, am I dead? Am I dying? I'm in hell. And then she walks around to the other side and says, almost done, just one more, and breaks the other one. No. And then she walks out of the room, but before she leaves, she turns and says, God, I love you. And leaves.
I want to go home. I don't like it here.
Cut to Annie driving into town, past the sheriff's office, and someone cuts her off. Okay? So she's yelling out of her car and like loses her shit. And she's just like, you poop! Like she's losing her mind. Buster comes out on the porch and he doesn't say anything. He's just his wheels are turning. That's literally it. Just his wheels are turning. Then we see Buster marches in and Ginny is sitting at his desk and it's just strewn with papers and she's like trying to organize it. And he's like, just leave it, all right? And he's like, there's a system here. And she goes, ooh, I like that tone. Cute. So cute. And he grabs a piece of paper and holds it up to her and he goes, see, right where I needed it. He's like, I have a system. And she's like, well, what is it? And he says, maybe nothing. She's like, well, I'm glad you found it. And he's like, see, there's that spice again, and leaves. They're so cute. Now we cut to him in the library and he's looking through old newspapers. We find that he comes to Annie on the front page with a quote underneath of it that says, Ms. Wilkes was quoted as saying to the reporters on the steps of the courthouse, bonus question, what?
There is something above me more than man that will give me justice.
Yep. That was the exact quote. You got it verbatim. And he sees exactly that, puts the little piece of paper next to it so that there was no confusion for the audience. Cut to Annie pulling up and to her house, and she waves to Paul through the window, and she's like, "Hi, pumpkin!" And Paul looks out and just flips her the bird. He's fucking had it. And she just goes, "Oh, such a kidder. Come on, misery." So now we cut to Buster at the general store, and he's asking about those misery books. And he says, the clerk says that Annie Wilkes makes him set aside the first copy whenever one comes in. Mm-hmm. And Buster is like, "Has she bought anything odd lately?" And the clerk is like, "Nope, same old stuff. Lest you call typing paper odd." And he was like, I do. And he literally goes, "Nope, nothing odd about that," as he's leaving and slams the door. I fucking love Buster. Cut to the sheriff driving to Annie's house. Paul sees out the window. And he's like, just like that. That's what he was doing. And as we see it, Annie comes rushing in, stone-faced, sticks him in the arm with a thingy. And he's like, "No!" And he's like trying to strangle her, but then the drugs start to take control and he can't. So now we see her wheeling him to the basement, but like the basement is not a door. It's like an invisible door, like so it blends in with the wall kind of thing. It's like a secret door.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you have to be looking for a seam in the wall to know that that's a door to the basement.
That's a door, yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, "I will never understand you. I cook for you. I do everything for you. When are we going to have a sense of trust?" And as she's doing it, we see the sheriff walking up. Annie is putting him in the basement. She like lifts him over her shoulder and like puts him on the ground in the basement. And then we see her like tuck up the wheelchair at the top of the stairs, put it in another closet somewhere. And we see that he's down in the basement, just like on the ground next to the grill with his fucking birth manuscript next to him. And Annie opens the door like as the sheriff is about to knock. And she's like, "Oh!" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to scare you." And she's like, "I guess you can tell I never have visitors." And he's like, "What can you tell me about Paul Sheldon?" And she just starts giving him his biography. She's like, "Well, he was born in 1945 to Meryl and Streep and blah, blah, blah." He wasn't born to Meryl
Streep. Whoa.
No,
I didn't know
that's
that.
not right. He was not born to Meryl and
Caan
Streep.
was born to Streep.
Yeah. And Buster is like, "No, that's not what I meant. He's missing." And she cuts him off. She's like, "I know, it's so upsetting. I'm his number one fan." And she says, "I'm so proud of my Paul Sheldon collection. Come on in." She's like, "You must know about that awful accident." She's like, and he's like, "Mind if I look around?" She's like, "No, of course not." She's like, "God, that accident almost killed me too. You know, I prayed for it not to be true." And she was like, "But when I was praying to God, he called on me and said to get ready. God told me that I was to be his replacement. God told me since I was his number one fan that I should make up new stories.
No.
Like no. I was him."
No.
So I went into town and I bought me some writing paper and I bought me a typewriter and I turned the guest room into a writing studio. Want to see it? "Sure," says Buster. She says, "I know everything about how he wrote. I spent the last 4 weeks trying to write like him." She's like, "Maybe it'll take a while to get the hang of, but I think I can do it. Want to read it?" And Buster's like, "No." She's like, "Oh, where are my manners? Would you like some hot cocoa?" And he's like, "No, I don't." She's like, "Nope, it's already made. I'll go get it." So she leaves the room. And when she leaves the room, Buster kind of looks around the corner and goes up the stairs, like to continue looking. Cut to Paul down in the basement, and we see that he's like kind of getting control of his arms and like kind of like hits the grill next to him and is like, ah. We then see that she finds the sheriff up in his room, and she slowly comes up behind him, and he turns. Here's your cocoa. And he's like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. I really got to get going. She's like, but you didn't even taste it. He's like, sorry, I really got to go. So she lets him out. And as he's walking down the porch stairs, she's closing the door. Question 12, what do you do and what does Paul do?
I start making as much noise as I possibly can, hand in hand. All the noise. Noise, 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 noise. Hello, I'm here.
So she has closed the door, but because it's the basement, the sheriff can hear it basically from outside the house,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so he goes back in and he's like, Annie or Miss Wilkes or whatever. She doesn't answer. But he goes in and he hears Paul screaming, I'm down here. And the entrance is like, it's like the entrance to the basement is right across from the front door. And so he opens the door. He says, Mr. Sheldon, bang! Buster is shot in the back through the chest with a shotgun and falls down the stairs. I cried. I was so upset. I was like, poor Ginny. I was so upset. I was so upset.
my
I have not had a death of a human affect me that badly in a long time. So then Annie comes to the top of the stairs, and Paul again is just like,
How many times am I almost?
it's like, do you want to have a baby? I mean, let's just have a baby. Do you want to, let's get matching tombstone plots. Like, we're done. She comes to the top and she says, don't feel bad, Paul. It was bound to happen. I get it now. I get why I was chosen. You and I are meant to be together forever. I put 2 bullets in the gun. One for you and one for me. It'll be so beautiful. And she walks away for a second, and he looks around and he sees the kerosene can and the grill. She comes back to the top of the stairs with a syringe and the gun, okay? And she says, I love you, Paul. Question 13, what do you do? What does Paul do? Do, say, think. How does he propose? Marriage.
Can I reach the things? The kerosene and the... Okay. I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
I knew this was going to be a tiring one.
Okay. I've got kerosene. And that's good for fires. And I got...
That does make
this
fires.
grill. And then she's got a pointy... a
Needle. And a gun.
And I know what that does. I know
Yep.
what that does.
No mystery there.
Okay. So I'm going to hand in hand. Throw kerosene on the grill. And when she comes down, light it on fire, and then throw kerosene on her, and then push the grill at her.
0 points.
Great.
She says, I love you, Paul.
Fuck you.
And Paul says, I love you too.
I can't do it anymore.
And he
Good
says,
for you, Paul.
Good for you, Paul. And he says, and I understand. He says, we have to end it, but not before we give misery eternal life. We have to finish the book. And she says, and Annie says, but soon others will come. He says, it's almost done. By dawn, we'll be able to give misery back to the world. She's like, oh, Paul, And then she walks back up. And as she turns her back, he quickly grabs the kerosene and puts it into the back of his pants. Then she puts the chair at the top of the stairs and just catatonically walks away and says, I'll fix you something to eat. Cut to him typing away. Type, typity, type. And Annie says, oh, Paul, I'm dying. Does she end up with Ian or Winthorpe? And he's like, I'm almost finished. And I'll need everything to be perfect. I'll need 3 things. Question 14, Kim.
He needs
what 3 things?
a bottle of Dom Perignon, 1 match, and 1 cigarette. Hand in hand. I know my rituals.
Yeah. Yes. So he says, it's almost done. I want 3 things. And she says, what 3 things? And he goes, you mean you don't know? So I was like, you dick. I love it. And she goes, no, I know. I was just fooling. You need 1 cigarette and a match and a glass of Dom Perignon. And he says, yep, a glass of Dom Perignon. Typity type. Calls Annie in later, in again, and says, I'm almost finished. And he's like, go get it set up. And he's like, you'll know everything in a minute. Get the champagne. She leaves. He grabs the manuscript when she leaves, and he puts it on the ground next to him. Okay? Mm-hmm. Cut to her putting the tray together, or she comes in, and she says, did I do good? And he says, you did. Only this time, we need 2 glasses. So she's like, oh, Paul. And she leaves. And at this point, he then balls up 1 piece of paper so that it's like a torch, like he's holding it. It's not balled in a ball. It's like a torch. And he pulls the kerosene out. He douses the book, the manuscript in kerosene. And then he douses the torch paper in kerosene. And he lights the piece of paper on fire that he's holding. And then Annie comes in and she's like, Paul, what are you doing? And he says, remember no one knew who Misery's father was? It's right here. It's all right here. And I guess this is where he lights the match and lights the paper. Annie drops the glass and she's like, no! He sets the manuscript on fire down on the floor next to him. She gets on the ground to put it out. No, not my Misery! Question 15. What do you do and what does Paul do?
So she's on the ground, like next to me, basically?
Like trying to like pat it out. Yes.
Okay.
Like on all 4s.
I'm going to do my favorite thing, which is break the glass and stabby stab, but stab forever.
Okay.
It's my favorite way to kill. And what does he have? A cigarette? Oh, and but also hand in hand douse her with kerosene.
Half a point.
Okay.
She's on the ground.
Even for me?
He's been working out. Because here's why. The angle that she is and I don't know, like you might hurt her, but I don't know that you'd be able to like get her. And then as soon as she got up, she's still stronger than you.
Okay.
What he does is he picks up that heavy fucking typewriter.
The typewriter.
And smashes it down on her head.
Nice.
Her sleeve then catches fire and she kind of like rolls off and is like dazed. And she's like, ugh, and she's like trying to put her arm out, which is now on fire. But somehow she's a superhuman. I guess we should know she's strong because she's carrying around a full grown man on her dead weight on her shoulders. Yeah. So she puts her sleeve out and gets up and smashes him up against the window. So she's like strangling him. He then puts his fingers into her eyes.
Yep. Love it.
But not forever. I wish he had done it forever. She then backs up and he like wheels himself towards her, like basically like shoots himself towards her. At some point, she shoots him in the shoulder and he's like, ah, but he again is able to kind of like use his body weight to like throw himself on top of her, knocks her down, and the second bullet is fired like into the air. He's now on top of her. She still has her eyes, but they're really injured, and they're rolling back and forth, and they are physically equally matched for sure. Like, she is a strong lady. He then gets on top and starts shoving the burned manuscript into her mouth, and he's like, "You like that? You eat it, you sick, twisted fuck! Choke on it!" And then
I go.
This is where I just feel, I can't believe I'm saying this, I feel bad for dudes in this scenario because we always have a secret weapon, because she knees him in the balls and he rolls off of her and she gets up and he manages to use the centrifugal force of his own dead leg to swing it around and trip her, and she falls and hits her head onto the typewriter, dead.
Centrifugal force of his own dead leg. It's a great description.
It was science. And so he's like, fuck. So he starts crawling out into the hallway. Pounced on him again. This bitch won't die. No. So he's like crawling, and he sees in front of him that there's this big iron statue of Misery the pig on like a shelf. He grabs it and smashes her in the head with it and smashes her again. And finally, she falls down dead. And we know this time because her eyes stay open.
She still deserves many more hits.
So many more hits.
Hit forever. Hit forever.
I said that. Eric said the same thing. He was like, why would you not just like fucking smash her to smithereens forever?
Yeah.
So, cut to Paul Sheldon.
Hello?
Walking down the streets of New York.
Hello, me.
Hobbling with a cane. And he is having lunch with Lauren. And it says 18 months later.
Okay.
She hands him the first copy of his new book. And it's not Misery. And she says, the Times is telling me that this is basically, their review is going to be a love letter. She's like, you're finally being taken seriously. And he's like, cool. And like puts the book aside and picks up his menu. And she's like, I thought you'd be thrilled to be taken seriously after all this time. And he says, I'm delighted that people like it. I'm delighted that the critics like it. But I wrote it for me. And he says, don't think I'm completely nuts. But in some way, I think Annie Wilkes helped me. And he said, and then she goes, well, since you brought it up, want to write about it? And he's like, you know, if I didn't know you so well, I'd think you were wanting me to drudge up the greatest tragedy of my life so that you can make a buck. And she's like, I had to ask or I would be chased out of the agents union. Like I had to. Then we see the waitress coming towards him as he's talking about what a tragedy it was. He's like, I don't think I'll ever be over it. But we see that the waitress coming towards him is Annie holding a knife.
What?
And he's just watching her walk towards him. And he's just saying, I don't think it's something you ever get over. And then the waitress comes to the table and we look up and we see it's not Annie.
Yeah.
But this waitress says, excuse me, but are you Paul Sheldon? I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm your #1 fan.
No!
And Paul just says, thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, God.
The end!
Oh, God. So
Yeah.
good.
So
good. So horrible to live through
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be inside of,
It
but so
was
good.
Incredible. Like, it was incredible. It's such an iconic movie that, like, I think it gets taken for granted, especially if you haven't seen it. You're like, I know what it is, you know? You don't. The performances were exceptional. All right. I think you did, like, bordering on a perfect score, so let's see.
Hey-o.
Hey, Sammys! So, as you've heard, we have a Patreon and we have some amazing BoneCon happening over there.
That's bonus content.
BoneCon all the time. We are constantly updating our benefits and we would love for you guys to come hang out with us over there. And we actually have some deals going on right now if you join soon.
Join for an annual membership by the end of 2020 and you'll get 2 months free.
So, Sammys, what are you waiting for? Come on. Come over to Patreon. We're all hanging out. Goodbye.
We're all gonna stay alive.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So, out of your dead or alives, you got 2 out of 4. But you got your 2 bonus points. So you got 100 fucking percent on your dead or alives. For your questions, you got 23.5 out of 30 for a total of 27.5 out of 34.
Oh, hell yes, bitch.
So fucking good. So that's
Simply
misery.
because we learned in this episode that I actually am James Caan.
And I actually am Kathy Bates.
What a great thing to learn.
Surprise.
Oh,
what were you looking at?
That was so good. I was just thinking, just from the way you were talking and performing, Kathy, that Lizzie Kaplan did such a good job in Castle Rock because she plays the same character.
Oh.
But I think it's before that she's younger, so it's before this.
Yeah.
It's like a prequel. So, but like the obviously things she says and stuff like that, it's a lot of the same like terminology, like the way she curses, kind of.
Cock-a-doodie car.
But yeah, but definitely like her voice and mannerisms. I don't know, something like it was like the way that you were behaving is like exactly what Lizzie Kaplan does. So I thought that was like so great on so many levels of
Well, she is also one of my favorite actresses. So
I fucking love Lizzie Kaplan. She's is phenomenal.
Incredible.
So yeah, it looks like she did Kathy Bates well, I think, but I can't wait to watch.
You mean she did me well?
She did you well.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
did you well in this, and as we stayed alive together.
Yes, we did. So go watch Misery right now.
I think I will.
It's fucking great.
Except
that's
I can't.
all I have.
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to. I have PTSD from it. I need a minute.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I honestly can't. It really is different, like living inside it, you guys. Like it's so different than just
No, it really is.
hearing
You're literally physically exhausted from it. Well, then go take a nap.
That sounds better.
Go take a misery nap.
Turn my brain off somehow.
Guys, do all the things. Rate, review, and subscribe. Kim always remembers to remind you guys of that, and I always forget. So now I'm reminding you. And then I'm also telling you to follow us at KKSam Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also telling you to join our Facebook group, Sammy Stay Alive Maybe. And then I'm also telling you to join our Patreon. That's a lot of homework, you guys, but get on it.
It's also the last month to join Patreon annually and get 2 months free. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
And I was going to add something, but then I got distracted by my own thing. So,
sorry.
Just share us with a friend. That's all. If you like us, please tell someone or like post it somewhere. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
that's I think that's it.
Yeah. This has been Kim and Kat. Stay alive.
Maybe.
So until next week.
Oh, stay alive.
Stay alive. Cock-a-doodie car.
Ew. What the fuck was that?
It's just mint, but it looked like a bug came out of my water.
It did look like a bug.
It was even like a bug-shaped leaf. It's like a straight-up cockroach crawled out of my
It
mouth.
looked like it jumped out too. Like it didn't look like something like fell out of your mouth. Like it looked like you drank water and then something jumped
and then
out
leapt out of my mouth. Yep, just my bug water. I get my protein by bugs in my water.